Hey, there we go. Hopefully this is going to be working okay. Lots of stuff happening here. Let me get this put together. And let me transition to this. There we go. All right, so take a second and let this thing get itself put together. Looks like we're getting caught up here. All right, so this is a little bit behind here, but I'm going to try and do these pretty much on schedule every day at right around 3 o'clock. I'm really starting to dial into a schedule here. I kind of feel like it'd be better off if I did these a little later in the day, but I kind of like doing them at 3. It gives me my evening. I could get the video up. People could come back and look at it in the evening. I might try and do one. I think I'm also going to try and do a live on Sundays, something a little bit longer. I'm trying to get to an hour on these. And once I can get myself up to an hour of live streaming, then I will go ahead and start putting these into the podcast as well. So I'm going to go over a couple of things today. I have been on some of the other platforms. I've been defending one Donald J. Trump. And I think that a lot of people would wonder, why in the world would I defend Donald Trump? I'm a libertarian. He's obviously not my guy. So why am I defending him? And I've got my reasons, and I'm going to go into them today. But I want to start out by just once again emphasizing that the reason I am, let's see here, the reason I don't support Trump is pretty cut and dry. All right. So with Donald Trump, I've got a few pretty important, he's wrong for me on virtually all of my big ticket, all the big things I care about, he's wrong on. I'm just setting some things up here. So sorry, I'm not looking at the screen. Okay. All of my big ticket items, when I think about what's most important to me as a voter, and I think about Donald Trump, there's just everything important, man. He's wrong on everything important to me. So first and foremost with him is deficit spending, budget deficits. Donald Trump, one of the things he ran on was ending deficits, balancing the budget. That was a big part of his campaign, was that he was going to bring an end to that stuff. And I think it's pretty obvious that that has not been the case. So I'm a balanced budget guy. I'm not a deficit guy. I'm a firm believer that we owe it to, quite frankly, I think we owe it to our kids, to our future, to make sure that the budget is balanced. And if we can't do that, we're really failing the future. We're borrowing this money from tomorrow. And libertarians understand that very well. They understand that we are clearly, we're clearly stealing from our kids, and we're getting into a budget situation and a financial situation that's completely untenable. I've mentioned it in several other videos that if we don't get our budget situation squared away, that you're going to see a collapse in the currency. You're going to see a global loss of faith in the American currency. And a president who ran on balancing the budget has not made any noise, put up virtually no resistance in signing a budget that added $1 trillion to the deficit. So yeah, I have serious problems with that. And this is pre-corona. I know everything's changing now because of coronavirus, and everybody's, well, this is because of corona. It's not because of corona. He signed this budget way before the coronavirus happened. So let's just keep in mind that we can't use coronavirus as an excuse for all the things that he's done. So that's definitely one of my major issues, is the budget deficit. Another big issue I have with him is military interventionism. I'm a libertarian. And I know that, look, he's done some good things lately. The peace treaties that he signed, that he got put together in the Middle East, is amazing. I'm really excited that he got that done. We're hearing talks that other countries might fall in line and join in on this. That's exciting, incredible news. And I think it's an amazing job that he did. And obviously he's not alone. He didn't do this all by himself, but that's really great news. But the bottom line is while he's attempted, we still have troops in Afghanistan. We're still all over the world. Our military is still deployed everywhere. We're spending all this money on military. And when you talk about deploying the military everywhere and having the military in all these different places, we also have to keep in mind that, hey, he is, he's asking for more money. for the military as well. We have this massive, massive military budget, and he's asking for more money. He's growing the size of our military. At this point, we need to be shrinking the military. We talk about COVID-19 and the response and the deficit spending and all that stuff. Fine, okay, we need all this relief. We need to prop up businesses. We can have the arguments about whether or not the government should be interjecting into the private economy at a time of crisis like this. But at the end of the day, we have to pay for that, and we have to pay for it by reducing costs. And the biggest discretionary part of our budget is, in fact, our military. And why we are spending that much money there, I do not know, and it makes no sense to me. And we're growing that budget, not shrinking it. So that's a huge problem, and that adds to our deficit. And that kind of spending makes us much less capable of responding to crises like this without reaching into the piggy bank and borrowing from the future. And so I have a serious, serious problem with that. The next issue I have with Trump is, of course, he has a major issue when it comes to his... Look, I believe that a president should be a unifier. Right. I think that that is part of his role. Part of his role is to try and bring the country together. And he's just not, he doesn't have that leadership quality. He's very divisive. And I would like to see a president, I would really like to see a president who does a better job communicating, a better job bringing people together. Get off the Twitter, be a better communicator, be a leader. The country needs it now more than ever. Now, I will give him credit. And I will say that he is oftentimes misrepresented by the media, misrepresented by the media, misrepresented on social media. So I'm going to get into some of the things that have been taken out of context in terms of when I get to defending Trump. But he does, and some of it is intentional. I think that some people like it, and I think that you get tired of the left bullying the right. And everybody who doesn't agree with them is a racist, and everybody who doesn't agree with them is deplorable, and you can't speak back to them because you get shouted down. So I think that they've been waiting for a leader who's going to stand up and not be pushed around like that. But at the end of the day, his job is also to unify the country, and I think it's pretty obvious that he hasn't done that. He's got his own authoritarian tendencies. He has expanded executive power. I think this latest thing with the expansion of the unemployment benefits and some of the other things he's doing, but he's used executive authority, again, the same way Republicans criticized Obama of using executive authority. They should be criticizing Trump for using executive authority. You can't just be ideological. You have to be principled. If the expansion of executive power is wrong, it's wrong when your guy does it just as much as it's wrong when the other guy does it. So Trump signing all these executive orders, doing all this thing through the executive office, working his way around Congress. Republicans were terrified of that when Obama was doing it. Well, you lose a bit of your high ground when you don't stand up to Donald Trump doing the exact same thing. So that's a major issue that I have with Donald Trump. And I think the other thing is his immigration policies. I'm not a fan of his immigration policies. I'm not a big on the child separation thing. I get, I'm going to get into that in my defenses of Trump, but he did do it. He did put the zero tolerance policy in effect on the border that did result in massive numbers of separations that maybe were not necessary. On the other hand, I think that some of his pushback against illegal immigrants and documenting some of that stuff and trying to get these people amnesty or whatever the case may be, did start moving some of the applications. Right, I know people who are waiting for their applications to get processed, and the processing has actually gone faster under Trump than it did under Obama. So that's something, but I don't like the way he handled things on the southern border. I think he could have done a better job there. And last but not least, I think this is one of my other big issues is the war on drugs. You've heard me talk about the war on drugs in the past. If you want to solve the problem on the southern border, you got to end the war on drugs. And he's an authoritarian there too. He hasn't moved the country in that direction. I think he reaches out or tries to keep his conservative base happy by doing so. And because of that, I can't support him. Those are my big issues. And he's wrong on all of those issues, right? He is wrong on deficit spending. He's wrong on military spending and foreign intervention. He's wrong on expanding executive power. And he's wrong on the war on drugs. These are my big ticket items. These are my top items. So when I check the box, I look at Donald Trump and I say, you're wrong on everything. Now, I did a video about why I support Jo Jorgensen. I went through where she agrees with me. And that's why I'm voting Libertarian. I don't care about who's going to win or lose between the left and the right, because, and here's the bottom line, every single one of these things that I don't like about Donald Trump, the Democrats are right there. There's no difference. There's no variance on those items. There's no real difference. And you may say there's difference when it comes to the child separation and the immigration policy, but any honest Democrat's going to tell you that Barack Obama was every bit as bad on immigration as Donald Trump, period. There's no way around it. So to say that Trump is somehow better than Obama on one of these issues, I think that's very disingenuous, or worse on this issue. That they called Obama's deporter in chief. Obama sent National Guard to the border. Obama was very, very hard on immigration. So don't come back at me with, oh no, but he wasn't as bad as Trump. No, sorry, he was absolutely as bad as Trump on immigration. So I have a problem with the immigration issue. Obviously, we've had Obama as president for 8 years. We didn't see any less foreign intervention. We didn't see a shrinking of the military budget. We toppled Syria. We toppled Libya. We went into all these different places. We literally created the Syrian migration issue. So the Democrats have been no better there. And, you know, like I said, on the expanding executive power, the Democrats were no better there as well. Obama had no problem using executive power, and I think abusing executive power to get his way. So when it comes to the Republicans and the Democrats, I don't like either of them, and that's why I'm not voting for Donald Trump. But you'll find me defending him, and you'll find me defending him for a few reasons. So when it comes to Trump, my defense of Donald Trump is more about Joe Biden than it is about Donald Trump. Now, bear in mind, I'm not necessarily attacking Joe Biden from a policy perspective. Like I just went over, I don't think that he's that much better than Donald Trump. In fact, I think he's worse. And I'm going to illustrate some of the ways that I think that he's going to be worse. But first, I want to talk about Donald Trump and how I believe that the left is being misled. And the reason for this is because I think there's a huge number of Democrats out there who do not like Joe Biden. The anti-Joe Biden fervor before the DNC, before it pretty much became known that he was going to be the guy, the anti-Democrat sentiment was insane, right? The anti-Joe Biden sentiment was insane. These people do not want Joe Biden to be their president. They absolutely don't. They're going to hold their nose and vote for him because they feel like he is because Trump's the devil. That's it. Trump's the devil, so we have to vote for Biden. As a libertarian, I'm looking at where libertarians can go and get votes from. And I look at libertarianism and I say, look, we can go and we can get votes from Democrats because Joe Biden is weak. He's bad. They don't like him. I think a lot of people look at him and Kamala Harris and they say, come on, we can't do any better than this. And so they see the Democrat nominees and they say, I would vote for, I've had tons of Democrats tell me, I would vote for Joe Jorgensen, but I just can't do it because Donald Trump is the devil. And so I'm going to go through some of the ways that Donald Trump, and this is when you're talking to, if you're a libertarian watching this and you're talking to Democrats and you're trying to convince them to vote for Joe Jorgensen and they come back at you with Donald Trump is the devil and we have to get him out, then hopefully these are some things that might help you overcome that objection. So first and foremost, you're being misled pretty strongly. And I'm going to pull up some things here. Now, bear with me. I'm putting in new technology here. So hopefully everything goes smooth. I've had some rough days here on the live stream, but I think I've got it pretty much dialed in now. But the first thing is the MS-13. So I'm going to go, these are kind of like the big things that they say Trump is evil and here's why. One of the reasons Trump is evil is because he called illegal immigrants animals. Now, I remember this. And I remember thinking, well, there's no way to defend that. And I'm telling you, you really have to go and dig to find this stuff. The mainstream media does not want you reading this stuff and informing yourself as to what in the world is going on out there. But I'm going to pull up an article here. This is by Politico, and I'm going to see if we can't transition this without blowing the thing up. But here is Trump. Animals comment referred to MS-13 gang members. So This is President Trump on Thursday said he was referring to MS-13 gang members when he called some undocumented immigrants animals a day earlier after his remarks prompted a partisan spat online. Here's the quote, I'm referring to the MS-13 gangs that are coming in. I was talking about the MS-13. Now, here's this for me is the key paragraph right here. I've got it highlighted. The dust-up began Wednesday when, during a roundtable on so-called sanctuary cities, Fresno County Sheriff Margaret Mims brought up the gang while expressing concern about a California law that forbids local authorities informing U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement of the undocumented immigrants in the state's jails. And was his response to that specific question. We have people coming into the country or trying to come in, and we're stopping a lot of them, but we're taking people out of the country. Trump responded, "You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people. These are animals." You can't possibly think, if you're a rational person, and you at least go back and watch her ask him this question. You can dig it up. It's not easy to find, but you can dig up the press conference, and you can say, okay, she asked him a question directly about MS-13. This was his direct response. I think it's pretty obvious that he was not talking about all undocumented immigrants, but was actually speaking specifically about MS-13. That's and this was a huge story. If you remember back then, this was a huge story, and it was all over mainstream media, and it was intentionally misleading. They were intentionally misleading you. And I have a real problem with that. First of all, and if you're a liberal, if you're a leftist, you should also have a problem with it, because literally this is mainstream media playing on the heartstrings of immigrants, vulnerable people, to get the vote, to get Hillary into office. I mean, come on, this is not how mainstream media is supposed to behave. This was a flat out manipulation. The other big anti-Trump thing that you hear is the child separation. Now, this is an interesting one because, and I'm going to get this article up here. This is long. Don't worry. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's factcheck.org. But in defending its zero tolerance border policy that's caused the separation of families, the Trump administration has argued that the Obama and Bush administrations did this too. That's misleading. That's true. That is, in fact, misleading. But not in that the policy of child separation. Both the Obama and the Bush administrations did separate children from their adult companions when they were going to be prosecuted. The only change that Trump made was a zero tolerance policy. We're going to take everybody in and prosecute people for illegally crossing the border, which led to an increase, for sure, in the number of child separations. But the truth is, the cages that we saw on TV, and this has long been proven, the cages that we saw on television, all that stuff, those were built under the Obama administration. So it's very misleading. Again, this is the media trying to manipulate Democrats into thinking that Trump is the devil because they have a bad candidate, and they're trying to figure out how to keep their voters from walking away. You see the hashtag walk away movement and all this stuff. Democrats don't like Joe Biden, so the only way they can get people to vote for him is to convince them that Trump is the devil. So if this goes on to say, when we asked and pointed to numbers that show 21% of apprehended adults were referred for prosecution under Obama. From fiscal year 2010 to fiscal 2016, there were 2,362,966 adults apprehended illegally crossing the southern border, and 492,970 were referred for prosecution. That doesn't tell us anything about how many children may have been separated from their parents under Obama. Essentially, we don't know how many, but we do know it was happening. And we do know that the facilities were built under the Obama administration, possibly some of it under the Bush administration. So Trump took a zero policy attitude towards illegal border crossings. And as a result, there were more child separations. However, we don't know how many occurred. You can't even say there were more because the no tolerance policy may have reduced the number of illegal border crossings. So at the end of the day, it's really impossible to say who separated more children from their families. But this was when a family crosses the border and the adults are being referred for prosecution, the children are going to be separated. We've heard the argument made over and over again. Hey, if I've got my kids in the car and I'm getting arrested for something, I don't get to take my kids to prison with me. It's not a good thing. We need to fix the immigration issue. But to paint Trump as some kind of a monster because he decided that we're going to start separating children at the border and build cages and do all this stuff, that's not true. That's, again, intentionally misleading people. The other knock against Trump, the other big knock, the reason that he's the devil, the reason that liberals hate him so much is because he's racist. And don't worry, I'm going to get into Joe Biden. I know, what is this guy doing? He's defending Trump. But he's this terrible racist. It's an interesting thing. Here's an article that comes up, and everything's so political. This is why it's important to elect a third party candidate. You understand? This is why nothing matters except the political party anymore. 90% of Democrats think Trump is racist, while 90% of Republicans think he's not. Nobody's forming their own opinion anymore. It's all this duopoly. It's all this left versus right, Republican versus Democrat nonsense. So responding to a poll taken the week before the 2016 election, almost 9 out of 10 Trump supporters, 87%, said that Trump was not a racist. First of all, I have a real problem with 13% of Trump supporters thinking he's a racist but still voting for him, but we'll set that aside. An almost equal proportion of Hillary Clinton supporters, 91%, said he was. I don't understand. He's a racist. He's not a racist. Here's the problem with Trump and calling him a racist. And let's see here if I can find this. Here we go. So I pulled this article up from the New York Post. And if we scroll to the top here, how Trump, not Biden, has helped make Black lives better. So I think we all know before the coronavirus outbreak that our economy was humming along with record low unemployments and record low unemployment amongst the Black community. Not only did we see record low unemployment among the Black community, but we also saw increasing wages at a record pace among the Black community. And we also saw that while Trump had very little support amongst the Black community prior to the election, that his support amongst Blacks was increasing pretty dramatically. And in reality, his reelection was pretty much locked in. Without the Black vote, the Democrats cannot win without the Black vote. So painting him as a racist is incredibly important. Painting him as anti-Black is incredibly important in order to force Democrats into voting for a candidate like Joe Biden that they don't like. But here's an interesting thing. The Black vote will be the swing vote this year, like it usually is. And right now it's looking like it's Joe Biden's for the taking. This despite Biden's history, which is riddled with policies that have historically and devastatingly disenfranchised African Americans. For example, the 94 crime bill, which Biden helped author when he was a senator, incentivized local police departments to lock up as many Black people as possible, creating mass incarceration of African Americans, along with more prison cells and more aggressive policing. In addition, Biden was responsible for a provision in the 1986 crack law, which came to be viewed as one of the most racially slanted sentencing policies on record. A rule that treated crack cocaine as significantly worse than powder cocaine and ended up disproportionately punishing African Americans and sending them to prison, but sparing white Americans who typically used cocaine. I don't think that policy was racist, but it's been attacked as racist. So if you're a Democrat, you've attacked that policy as racist. Your guy, Joe Biden, largely responsible for it. Now, let's talk about Trump. And this gentleman says, I personally do not agree with everything President Trump says or does, and I often find myself on national TV as a conservative pundit saying exactly that. But I would be lying if I didn't tell you that Trump has been one of the most impactful presidents for African Americans from a policy perspective, and that's what matters. Okay. His recent police reform executive order, the First Step Act, released thousands of people from jail, 90% of whom are Black. He has promoted opportunity zones that incentivize private investment into marginalized communities and also increased federal funding to historically Black colleges and universities by 17%, a total exceeding $100 million, more than any president in history. Meanwhile, the Obama administration infamously removed a 2-year Bush administration program that annually funded $85 million directly to those prized institutions. Now, look, I'm a libertarian. I don't think the federal government should be doing this stuff to begin with. But to paint Trump as a racist it's troublesome at best. Okay. And more importantly, you could make the case against Biden much easier than you could make the case against Trump as far as who is the racist in the building, right? The crime bill, I've gone over this stuff in other videos. So they are literally taking Trump and they're trying to paint him as something that he's not because they're trying to force Democrat voters to vote for Biden. So these are just a few of the misleading things and some of the things that Trump has actually done that should help you argue against Democrats. You say, I would vote for third party, or I'd like to see a third party, but we have to beat Trump because Trump's evil, Trump's the end of the world. And one last thing is his homophobia. I think everybody kind of knows that that's not true. This is from the Sun Sentinel, an editorial piece, why Trump is the most pro-gay president in U.S. history. It's an opinion piece. he goes on to say a lot of different things about the Dolphin Democrats and their allies. Let's see, Dolphin Democrats, Caucus, Broward County. So here's just some of the things that they talk about. His initiative to decriminalize homosexuality globally. He doesn't get any praise or attention for that. We asked Congress in his 2019 State of the Union address to make the needed budget commitment to eliminate the HIV and AIDS epidemic in the United States within 10 years. This is not a gay issue per se, but it does impact the gay community more so than it does the straight community. Just those are the numbers. Look them up. 200,000 uninsured Americans will gain access to HIV preventive medicines at no cost. And he nominated Patrick Bumate, I'm probably getting that wrong, an openly gay Filipino man as a judge in the important Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. And there's another gentleman. He has the first openly gay cabinet member serving in his cabinet. I can't remember the gentleman's name, and I thought I had it up, but I don't, so shame on me. I'm going to see if I can't track that down real quick. Oops, look at me typing on the deal here. Getting a little behind the scenes look here. Openly gay cabinet. I just read his story, actually. He was initially, I think, an ambassador. There we go. Here we go. Richard Grenell. Oops, let's see. Trump told me being first out gay cabinet member was a big deal, Grenell. And the last I saw that Grenell was still a Trump supporter, openly gay. He was assigned to another post and then was, like I said, the first openly gay cabinet member. And keep in mind that Biden's on record as saying that he thinks homosexuals holding security clearances would represent a threat, security threat. Meanwhile, Grenell's post was actually acting director of national intelligence. So, hey, take that as you will. So I just think a lot of the reasons that Trump is so hated by the left is misleading, and they're doing it intentionally to keep people in the camp. But more importantly, there's a reason we have to make sure that first, obviously, I wanted to see as many votes for Joe Jorgensen as possible. I want to see the Libertarians get the funding they deserve. I want to see them get the attention they deserve. I want to see Joe Jorgensen on stage debating these two guys. I want to see that because she's the best candidate in the field, even though I do have some issues with her. She is the best candidate in the field, and I do not find her objectionable. I don't have to hold my nose and vote for her. And I think she's a much better Libertarian candidate than Gary Johnson was. So I'm very excited about her, and I really do want to see her get some opportunity and see people coming out and voting for her. But I also think it's actually very important to beat Joe Biden. This is one of the few areas where I think the Democrats are actually going to be worse for the country than the Republicans would be. Where I could say that I believe that, really, really believe that in my heart of hearts, that I think it's going to be very harmful for the country if Joe Biden wins, because Joe Biden is weak. And I think that we're seeing pretty obviously that he is not mentally where he should be. Let me see if I can do something here. Let me see what happens if I do this. I'm trying to do something here. Bear with me for just a sec. There we go. So I'm just pulling this up so I could actually not read the chats that were coming across. So I just want to thank, if you guys are still here, Libertarian for Life. Hey, what's up? You're a regular commenter, and I really do appreciate that as well. And Freighter B agreed, two-headed monster, absolutely. So I just wanted to pull that up. I was having trouble reading the chats, so I wanted to get that in front of me so I could at least see what people were saying. I know I posted it a while ago. Hopefully you're still here. But anyway, I think Biden unleashes the far left. And look, I can dislike Democrats just like I dislike Republicans, but the far left, these aren't Bill Clinton Democrats, okay? These aren't Obama Democrats even. There's a far left movement in this country that it has Marxist underpinnings, that is incredibly racist. It's second wave. To me, the new far left is second wave white supremacy. When I look at what they are pushing, that's how I see it. These are second wave. These are second wave white supremacists. I'm going to talk about a couple of the things that are going on out there and why it's so important to beat Joe Biden. I'm going to pull something up here real quick. Let me switch back here to my screen for you folks. Some of you have already seen this. I'm going to transition this thing over here. White culture in the United States. Rugged individualism. Emphasis on scientific method. Protestant work ethic. Status, power, and authority. Wealth equals worth. Your job is who you are. Respect authority. These are white things. Scientific method is white culture. There's no science before white. If you look at Asia, first of all, this is disgusting white supremacy nonsense. White culture was behind other cultures for a long time. You look at I can't even get into how ridiculous some of this stuff is. You telling me the Incans and the Mayans, they didn't have science, they weren't ahead of white culture for a long time. You're talking me Asian culture, Asians who invented gunpowder and were vastly ahead of whites. And all of them in our modern scientific environment that we live in today, all of them have been major contributors to this. This takes everything, the science part of this, the emphasis of scientific method being a white culture thing is disgusting white supremacy, because it takes every scientific advancement that has involved every race across the world has contributed to and discounts it all. All science, all modern, this objective, rational, linear thinking is a white thing. Cause and effect, quantitative emphasis is a white thing. No, it's not. It's science. And science belongs to all races. So that is ridiculous. To me, that's straight white supremacy. The family structure, the nuclear family. If you go and you read Black Lives Matter's mission statement, they want to destroy the nuclear family as well. Everything will tell you that the nuclear family is incredibly important. So I'm not buying into the husband is the breadwinner, wife is the homemaker, all of that nonsense. But a two-parent family is important. A strong nuclear family is important. So I don't understand why in the world this is not a white culture thing. Family is incredibly important because we're all people. These values are important to everybody. So it really, really is incredibly bothersome to me that they would... This is who's going to be coming to power. This is who's going to be coming to power in a scenario where Joe Biden becomes president. And to me, that is terrifying. Yes, there is a difference. This time, there is a difference between Biden and Trump. There really is. And I'm telling you, this is dangerous stuff. I'm going to switch this back again. Take a look at this here. You got future orientation. Plan for the future, delayed gratification, progress is best, tomorrow will be better. That's optimism, hard work, and determination. That's not white culture. I am insulted by this. If somebody told me that planning for the future and delayed gratification were part of white culture, as a person of color, I'd be incredibly offended. That is white supremacy. Go look up a video and it's woke racist and how they agree on everything. Woke culture is incredibly racist. I don't want to speak this person's name, but I will. Bill Cosby, the racism of lowered expectations is the far left. The far left is racist, incredibly racist. And so when you look at I look at a Joe Biden presidency and I say, these people are going to take over the world. They're going to take over the country if they are allowed to come to power. And to me, that is terrifying. So I think it's very, very important that Biden lose. And I'm not encouraging libertarians to vote for Donald Trump. That's not what I'm doing. Don't take it that way. But I think that Trump is going to win. I'm confident Trump is going to win, actually. But I want as many Democrat voters to walk away from Biden as possible. I think that's my target. Ideally, Joe Jorgensen's going to win, but as a realist, as a pragmatic libertarian, I want to see her break certain levels so that the Libertarian Party can continue to gain prominence. And what I want is for Democrats to understand that Trump's not the devil that they're making him out to be. He's probably going to win anyway, and Biden's dangerous. Everything you don't like about Trump is true about Biden when it comes to immigration, when it comes to racism. Look at his policy. He's got a 40-some year, almost 50-year legislative record you could pull from. So you don't get to call Trump a racist, and you get to point at Biden and say the same thing. Remember, this is the same guy who opposed busing. Kids growing up in a racial jungle and all that stuff. Biden's not a good guy. And I think he is. I really think that it's not gaffes when he opens his mouth. I think he's actually losing some of his mental faculties, and he is letting out what he actually thinks about black people. They don't have diversity in their culture. And I think that's a big part of how the left sees the black community, by the way, because as a person of color, when I defy leftist thinking, I'm not part of the community anymore. I'm out. I'm a coon. I'm an Uncle Tom. I've been called all those things. So they will disown members of the black community who don't go along with them. They'll say to be quiet and listen to black people, but not Candace. And then they'll say, not that black person, not Candace Owens, not Thomas Sowell, not any of these people who don't agree with us, these black people. That in and of itself is white supremacy. So to me, the far left is white supremacy. But what else? If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Just flat out. That's again you have to think the way we think, or you're not. I will define to you what being black is. And the other thing was, what was the other thing he said? He said this other thing about black folk. Oh, well, there's the poor kids are just as intelligent as white kids. This guy's a racist. And every time he opens there's a reason they keep this guy under wraps. Every time he opens his mouth, he proves a little bit more how racist he actually is. And so the far left is racism. The other side of the far left is this weird second rising of Marxist thought. Okay. And most modern economists, even leftist modern economists, have discounted the theories of Karl Marx. I'm actually getting ready to read his book, Capital, once I finish Saul's Basic Economics, but which I've been working on forever because I keep getting distracted. But this is my week. I'm going to wrap this thing up. And then I'm going to read Capital just so I have a better understanding of where these Marxists are coming from. But there is a strong Marxist underlying this far left movement. There's a strong Marxist influence there. We already know that the Black Lives Matter founders are Marxists. You can search that on YouTube in 2 seconds and find it. And you'll see that there's this huge Marxist influence in the way that they do things. And when you look at what Black Lives Matter is doing, I've talked about this in prior videos. When you look at what Black Lives Matter is doing, you'll see that they are not doing anything to help the black community. They're really just encouraging violence. Black Lives Matter organizer in Chicago says, looting is reparations. They're on this. This is part of the movement. So when people talk about the organization and the movement are two separate things. No, they're not. Stop. Don't let them lie to you. The movement, I think there are what would be called useful idiots out there who are genuine in their beliefs that black people are being oppressed in this country and they need to be reached. But they are unfortunately, they are the useful idiots of this Marxist movement, right? They're a cover for the people who are inciting riots and they need to be reached. And we have to talk to them about Joe Biden. The other danger of this is when I talk about the racism, and I'm going to see if I can't get this clip to work. So bear with me for just a second. But when we talk about the issues with Joe Biden, and we talk about the far left is way further left than people think the far left is. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. If I can't, come on, you. Let's get this. I got a clip I'm going to try and pull up here. I've never done a clip on a live stream before, so we are going to see how that works. Copy that. And I'm going to bring this clip up for you and take a look at this. This is the real deal, man. This is not... Let's see here. Okay. And we're going to transition. Now, I hope that you can get volume.
All white people are racist. So I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know
I don't know if you're getting
up
volume
front
on
that
this,
this is
quite
what we're
frankly.
dealing with, that
I'm
it's not going
guessing
to be
you're
this
not.
coddling of
So
white
let
tears
me,
and what that looks like. We're not going to discuss,
you know
oh,
what? Let me
maybe some
just
of us have
switch this
worked it
back to
out.
another
No, you're always
scene
going to be
here.
racist, actually.
Essentially, what
So
she's saying
even
in
when
this
you're on your
particular
path to
clip
trying to
is
figure out
that
how to be a better human being,
that is all
because I believe that white people
white
are
people
born
are
into not
racist.
being human, like that actually instead of
All white people are racist. And there's nothing you can do about it. I would encourage you to check out the clip. I'll put it in the comments. Go check this clip out. It's crazy. But it's that's a dangerous thing. I don't want that. There's anti-white racism. The white supremacy of the left is dangerous, and so is this anti-white sentiment, because this is going to backfire on the black community. It's going to become incredibly dangerous. So that again, I get very passionate about this stuff, but the bottom line on this is when you look at Trump, he's not the devil that the left is creating. Biden is dangerous, and the far left is even more dangerous, because I think Biden is weak, and I think that the far left is going to take control, and you're going to have these people who believe in black supremacy in place, and that is going to backlash against the black community. It's going to end up causing way more harm than good. So, hey, Erica, thanks. If you're still here, I appreciate it. I haven't seen you in one of my chats before, so... let's see. One of the biggest issues in communities of color is exactly that. No true understanding and grasp of policies and how our government actually operates. All right, let me just say this. It's not just in communities of color. It's the electorate. We have a dumb electorate. The voters aren't bright. I hate to say it, but it's true. The voters aren't bright. I had a really good, well, I'm not even going to get into that, but as a libertarian, it never ceases to amaze me how uninformed people tend to be. They just don't know. And they believe what they see on television. And if you're a Democrat in particular, you believe what you see on television, but you hate big corporations, you hate big business, that's where you're getting your messaging from. Who do you think owns all these? I think it's something like 90% of all media that we consume in this country is owned by like 6 different corporations. It's insane. These same corporations are controlling the message. People talk about libertarianism, and one of the issues I always hear about libertarians is that there's no protection. Big corporations and billionaires will run the country and all this stuff. I hear that a lot, and the thing that cracks me up about that is if that were the case, if that was what was going to happen in a libertarian world, then why aren't the billionaires and the corporations backing the Libertarian Party? Why aren't they trying to get the Libertarian Party on stage? It's the exact opposite. The two big parties are fundamentally work to protect business. They fundamentally work to protect. Monopolies. They fundamentally work to keep corporate America shielded from competition. That's what the two big parties do. So this idea that a libertarian presidency or a libertarian government would be so beneficial to these billionaires is a little foolish, I think. Anyway, I wanted to get in here and I wanted to discuss these things because we need to be smarter, right? Is that too much to ask? We need to be smarter. We need to be smarter. We need to be better at this stuff. We need to be more engaged, and we need to be not as locked into a political party and so loyal to these political parties that are not loyal to us. And I think Joe Biden is a terrible candidate. And then I actually mentioned this to a friend of mine who's a Democrat, and I posted this as a Facebook status, and I believe it 100%. If Joe Biden were running as a Republican and Kamala Harris was his VP, there's no way you would be hearing shrieks from the left. If somebody with Joe Biden's legislative record and Kamala Harris's history as a prosecutor were running as Republicans, the revolt from the left, you would be mind-numbing. And they are twisting their own logic around trying to support this person because they've been so convinced that Trump is evil. And that's just where I wanted to get in here and talk about, because it's just not the case. It's just not. There are things we need to fix in this country, for sure. Trump is not perfect. I do still believe that the Libertarian candidate is the best candidate running. I think school choice is a big issue. I've talked about the Libertarian candidate. There's a video on why I support Joe Jorgensen and a takedown both of Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I streamed that a couple of days ago, so I do encourage you to check that out. I will, as always, I'll be back tomorrow with another live stream, and I'm going to get a video up this Sunday. Hand to God, I know I've said it a couple times. I'm going to get a video up this Sunday as well. I don't know if that's going to be a pre-recorded video or it's going to be a live stream. My goal is to start putting these out a little bit, or not putting these out more often, but actually publicizing these. I'm getting the hang of the software, so I'm hoping to obviously grow the audience. So if you're still with me here, I hope you'll share the content if you like it. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, share the content. That's really going to help me grow. And that's what I got for today, folks. I really appreciate you sticking around. Thanks. This was comment section was a little bit more active today, which I certainly do appreciate. I hope you guys are all having a good one, and I'll check you next time.